I've been a home security technician for 23 years. You develop a certain relationship with the machines. You know their sounds, their rhythms, the way they hum in an empty house at 3 in the morning. But nothing in those 23 years prepared me for what we found in the ashes of the Harmon house on Birchwood Lane. The fire had been electrical, started in the kitchen near the breaker panel. By the time the trucks arrived, the first floor was fully involved. The Harmon family, Richard, Karen, and their daughter Lily, were staying with relatives in Connecticut that week. The house was empty. No one was hurt, but the house was a total loss, except for the answering machine. It was a Radio Shack 43546, a model I hadn't seen in years. Beige plastic housing, tape mechanism inside. The fire had melted the outer casing down to a charred lump, but somehow, and I still don't understand the physics of this, the tape mechanism survived. The tape inside survived. The messages on that tape survived. We pulled the tapes as part of the standard evidence collection. 12 microcassette tapes, labeled in Karen Harmon's handwriting, January 93 through December 97. 4 years of a family's phone messages, recorded on magnetic tape. I loaded the first tape into a bench player at the office. Standard stuff, wrong numbers, a neighbor asking about a cat, a child, Lily, probably 6 or 7, calling from a friend's house. "Mom, I'm at Sarah's, pick me up at 4. You can hear the TV in the background, someone laughing. A normal afternoon in a normal house. The second tape was more of the same. Delivery confirmations, a dentist appointment reminder, Richard's mother calling from Florida, leaving a message about Thanksgiving plans. The tapes were a portrait of a family in miniature, every mundane detail preserved in oxide and mylar. By the 5th tape, something changed. It started subtly. Between 2 messages, a telemarketer and a wrong number, there was a gap. Not silence, a sound. Low, rhythmic, almost like breathing. I assumed it was tape degradation, crosstalk from an adjacent track, the machine's own mechanism bleeding through. I almost fast-forwarded past it, but I didn't. I played it back at half speed. The breathing resolved into something more structured, not human breathing, too regular, too... I don't know how else to describe this. Too wet, like something with fluid in its lungs, breathing in a pattern that didn't match any human respiratory rate I'd ever measured. The rate was exactly 4 cycles per minute. Too slow for a sleeping adult. Too slow for anything alive that I could think of. I flagged it and moved on. The 6th tape. The breathing was back. Longer this time, 7 seconds instead of 3, and there was a second layer underneath it, a whisper. Not words exactly, more like the shape of words, the cadence of speech without the phonemes that make it intelligible. I played it back 3 times before I caught it. 1 word, repeated at the end of the breathing cycle. Inside. I checked the Harmon answering machine's surface records. The unit had been installed in 1991. It was hardwired to the phone line. No wireless capability, no way to record onto it from outside the house. Every message on those tapes was recorded by the machine itself, triggered by an incoming call. Except the breathing, it wasn't triggered by a call. The timestamps, the machine's internal counter, showed it occurring between messages, during gaps when no call was active. The recording light shouldn't have been on. The mechanism shouldn't have been running. But it was. Tape 8 was the one that broke me open. The Harmon answering machine had a feature I'd forgotten about. A message check light. A small red LED on the front panel that illuminated when new, unheard messages were stored. Richard Harmon had left a message on the machine that morning. If anyone calls, tell them we're out of town until Friday. Karen would have heard it when she checked the machine. The light should have been off. But on tape 8, the light was on. I could hear the mechanism click as it detected the new message state. The counter advanced to show one new message. The message was 12 seconds long. I've listened to those 12 seconds more times than I can count. It's a door opening, not slamming, not creaking in a horror movie way. Just opening. Slowly. The hinge sounds are too resonant for a standard interior door. Too deep, too reverberant, like the door was larger than it should be, or opening into a space larger than the house should contain. The recording light on the answering machine flickered during those 12 seconds, not randomly, in a pattern. I mapped it. On, off, on, off, off, on, off. Binary. I ran it through a converter. The pattern didn't resolve to ASCII, didn't resolve to any standard encoding, but it repeated, every 8 seconds, the same pattern, like a heartbeat, like something communicating in a language the machine was never designed to translate. Tapes 9 through 11 escalated in ways I'm not going to describe in detail. The breathing sound grew more complex. The whispers became more frequent. The answering machine's mechanical sounds began to sync with the anomalies. The play mechanism's hum matching the breathing rate exactly, as if the machine was being absorbed into whatever was producing the sound. Tape 12 was the last one, dated October 1997. The Harmon family had moved out of the house by then. I confirmed this through county records. The house sat empty for 6 months before it was sold to a developer who demolished it. The answering machine was still plugged in, still recording. The tape loaded. No normal messages, just 14 minutes of the breathing sound, evolving, layering, building in complexity and volume. At 11 minutes and 30 seconds, it resolved into clear English. I'm in the walls. I've always been in the walls. You just learned to listen. The voice was not Richard's, not Karen's, not Lily's. It was not any voice that had been on any of the previous tapes. It was calm, patient, the voice of something that had been waiting for someone to pay attention. After the voice spoke, the tape continued for 2 more minutes. The breathing sound returned, but slower now. Satisfied. The answering machine's LED counter continued advancing after the tape ended. It should have stopped at the end of the tape. It didn't. It counted up. 00, 01, 02, 03. The tape mechanism was still running. The recording light was still on. I've ejected the tape and unplugged the machine. I've thought about this for 3 years now. The Harmon house is gone. The family moved to another state. The tapes are in a storage facility that will eventually be demolished. But the data, the waveform data, the timing patterns, the binary sequences, those are on my hard drive. I've been analyzing them in my spare time. The breathing pattern matches no known animal or mechanical source. The word inside was recorded at a frequency that shouldn't exist on consumer magnetic tape. The answering machine's playback head couldn't physically reproduce it, which means the sound was already on the tape before the machine recorded it. Something was already there. The machine just captured what was already in the room. I keep coming back to one detail. On tape 8, when the recording light flickered its pattern, there was a moment, exactly at the 7.3-second mark, where the light stayed on for 2 full seconds instead of its normal half-second pulse. I played that section back thousands of times. 2 seconds of recording light on a machine that was supposed to be idle. In an empty house. 2 seconds of something that wanted to be heard. And 40 years of silence before anyone listened. I don't work in security anymore. I can't be in a house with an answering machine without hearing it. Without knowing that the mechanism runs even when no one calls. That the tape turns in the dark. That somewhere, in a house I've never been to, something is still leaving messages. You just have to know how to listen.